All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here today with my good friend Heather Pike. Heather, how are you?
I'm doing okay.
We were just talking about the quarantine and how we're coping. Everybody coping in your house. I know you asked me, but I didn't get to ask you. Doing well?
Yeah, we're surviving. My son's kind of a social butterfly, so it's been a little hard for him being here. He's tired of what did he call it? Home food. So so he's ready to venture out. He's keeping on top of it all.
Yeah. I usually start these by telling how we met, but I'm not even sure how we met. I know it was either a conference or
Oh gosh,
you
it was
may
a
have,
long time ago.
you may have been one of the presenters at Partners. Do you usually or does Joni usually present at Partners? It may have been both.
Um,
I think about it.
yeah, yeah. It might have been through Partners in Policymaking class, or I don't know. Honestly, I don't remember.
I don't either. I know it was probably, I'm going to guess, probably right around 2013. That's when I went through Partners. So, and I was going to conferences. I was going to all kinds of stuff. So, and I know we met,
Yeah.
um, but along the way, you have been a tremendous help to me, to others.
Aw.
And so I thought, who better to have on one of these than you? Your story is pretty impressive too. So let's start with that. Tell me your story, how you got involved with advocacy work.
Okay. Our son is now 22 years old, and so I've been doing it for a long time, I guess now. But really, I had no idea where this journey with our son would lead us, like many of us as parents, right? Um, but I didn't start off thinking I was going to ever work for a nonprofit organization. It wasn't ever anything in my mind or my plan or anything like that. My degree is in something totally different that I don't really use anymore. But it all started with our son, Leyton, and he contracted bacterial meningitis when he was almost a year old. And so secondary to his illness, he lost his hearing, lost his developmental milestones, just has an intellectual disability, and just had some other health things going on too. But that's really what started me out, just on a totally different path than what I was initially heading down. And really it was just connections with people along the way that has gotten me the place that I am today. 22 years almost of just, figuring out the systems and different things your kids qualify for at different ages and all kinds of therapies, and connecting with families is one of my favorite things to do, and just walking this journey together and knowing that we're not alone in it, and that's super helpful for us as a family.
You talked a little bit about Leyton. Tell me a little bit about his disability, like what you've gone through with that, because I think that would be helpful.
Sure. So after his illness, we found out from the meningitis that he lost his hearing, and so he's profoundly deaf in both ears. There's no one else in our family with hearing loss, and we did a lot of research and connecting with other families to try to figure out what that journey was going to look like for him. And we really wanted him to be a listener and a talker, if that was a possibility. So we chose for him to receive his first cochlear implant right before his second birthday. I think he was implanted about 22 months of age. And it was like a light bulb, just, somebody turned on a light bulb, and things just started coming together for him after his implant was activated. And we did auditory verbal therapy all throughout, teaching him to use his implant to listen and communicate verbally was our big goal for him, to just, be able to be confident in that. And then by the time he was between second and third grade, he was asking for another ear. At that time, insurance would only pay for one cochlear implant. They were it was still pretty early on, 20 years ago, that they were doing that technology. And so by the time he was between second and third grade, he was asking for another ear. That's just what we've always called him. And so he received a second implant about that time. Also throughout that time, he has seizure disorder. And so we were kind of, seeing some little breakthrough seizures from some of his medications and things like that. And so seeing neurology and trying to figure that out. He's doing really good with that right now. His goal is to drive a car. He's a big, passionate car freak. And that is the one thing he talks about all the time. And so we're trying to, make sure that he can be seizure free for that 6-month window. So maybe someday, hopefully, he can get his driver's license. But that's the big thing on his to-do list that we're trying to help make happen. And just intellectual disability on top of that. So all through school, receive special education services. It's on an IEP for those services and support. Lots of occupational therapy, physical therapy early on, just because he had lost, all of those developmental milestones. And he was almost walking before he contracted the meningitis. And so when we brought him home from the hospital, he lost his suck swallow. He, really couldn't do anything, wasn't rolling over, wasn't setting up. So we had sooner start in the home, helping us with those kinds of things, as well as doing some private therapy too. So it's just been a journey. I mean, he has taught us so many things. I always like to, just brag on him a little bit, because he's, like many of our kids, is super, super stubborn and determined and always has a plan. And I think that's what makes, them so successful, are those personality traits that sometimes can drive you crazy as a mom or a dad. But, in the long run, if you kind of manipulate those and use them to their advantage, then those will help them be successful. And so Leyton has a job now. We were kind of talking about that before we started recording. He's worked at a car dealership here we live in Edmond. He works at a car dealership in Oklahoma City, detailing cars, and he absolutely loves it. He's hated missing work and missing making some money while we're all stuck at home during COVID-19. But hopefully the plan is for him to get back there tomorrow. So he's really missed that.
That's good. Yeah, you said he's a social butterfly, so this has been rough on him. It's
been really hard. Yeah. And he's so close to his sister. And so just trying to keep social distance from him. My husband's a firefighter, so we're just trying to be cautious, with what he's exposed to, and then, what he could possibly bring home. And our daughter, Leyton's sister Zoe, is expecting. And so we're trying to be extra cautious, not to expose her to anything, especially during her pregnancy. So it's been hard. Thank goodness for technology and FaceTime. And he's got lots of cousins that, set up times, scheduled times for him to visit with them, and, friends that he talks to on the phone and things like that. So try to keep him busy doing some just socialization through technology.
Yeah, that's really good. We've had a social group for a few years now, and when this happened, everybody was like, what are we going to do? Because they love our social group so much that we've done Zoom, every Monday, and man, they love it. So yeah, thank goodness for technology, right? So you are the administrative director for Oklahoma Family Network. That's one of many hats that you have. For those who don't know, and I plan to have Joni on sometime soon, but for those who don't know, tell us about what the Oklahoma Family Network is.
Okay. Oklahoma Family Network is a statewide nonprofit organization. We're staffed by all parents who have children with a special health care need or disability, or have had a NICU experience, and a couple that have even lost a child because of a special health care need or disability. And so really our passion every day is just to connect with and support families that are just receiving the diagnosis, or just have a baby in the NICU, or know that they're carrying a child that's going to be born with some sort of special health care need or disability concern or issue. And so really it's just this big network of families that we just try to love on and support each other. And it's been really, there's been some blessings that have come out of just being at home. We've really kind of just gone back to our initial mission and purpose, in that just connecting with and supporting families. And we have staff that are just doing check-in calls with families to see how things are going, writing handwritten personal, notes and postcards to people just to let them know they're not alone. And so there's been some things that have been really good, just giving us time to kind of slow down and do some online trainings and provide those kinds of supports as well. So everything we do for families and professionals is no cost to them. We write all of that into our grants and funding and contracts, and then we do some fundraising efforts as well. And just provide connecting families with other families is the main purpose of our organization. So we have supporting parents that we can connect other families with that want to be connected with that type of support. We have staff that do support groups. Some are in person when we can do that. Now, obviously, they're all virtual through closed Facebook groups or Zoom meetings or whatever that looks like in their region and their area. And then we do training. So we have a lot of trainings that we do, care notebook training, to organize your child's healthcare information, our supporting parent training for families that want to become support parents and volunteer with our network, telling your story training. Actually, we have Joni and Wanda are going to be doing sharing your story training through Zoom. I believe it's next week. So if you watch us on Facebook, that's how we're announcing all of that information, and how to register for those types of things that we're doing now. So, and then just partnering, I guess, is the other thing that I would like to say that the network does. We can't do this work alone, and so we know the importance of partnering with, Cody, people like you and what you're doing in your area of the state, and other nonprofits and agencies and organizations. So,
Yeah, I had you do all that, although I know, because some people may or may not know, I worked for the Oklahoma Family Network. That's how I got to where I'm at. I met you and Joni, and I always tell this story, and I don't want to waste it because I know it'll go on Joni's when we talk, but I met her and she said, I need somebody in your area, and that's how we got started, basically, is part-time working for you guys. And I love the Oklahoma Family Network, and we do a lot of the same things, a lot of similar things. You guys don't have a huge database. I think one of the neat things is you got the database that you have that you can connect families with rare diseases. That's always been a neat aspect to me. So if you have something that's a 1 in 2 million people or whatever, you guys can find somebody in the United States that you can connect somebody with.
Yeah. And that's where that partnering piece comes into play. Just connecting with other organizations in other states that are doing similar work or have organizations like ours. We just recently were connecting a family with she had a little boy at a hospital in another state. And so we were able to connect her with the parent organization in that state, and they were able to provide that support while she was there. And now, she's coming back to Oklahoma. And so we'll pick back up where they left off. And the rare, just a rare genetic condition or something like that, if we don't have an appropriate person in Oklahoma, we can just post that on the national listserv and try to make a match through that way. So it's a good resource.
You, besides the Oklahoma Family Network, I know of at least one other organization that you work with. Is it the hearing?
Yeah, I do. So our son's received all of his audiology and speech services through Hearts for Hearing. And so we've always been a real supporter of that organization, because they've just done so many things for our family and provided so much for Leyton and just opportunities there. And so I actually have the privilege of serving on their board of directors as a representative from Oklahoma Family Network, but then I also get to wear that parent hat too, and just serve that organization that we love so dearly in that way as well.
Can you tell a little about that and what that organization does? I mean, I know it.
Yeah. So Hearts for Hearing, actually, they have two locations now in Oklahoma. They have one in Oklahoma City and one in Tulsa. And they serve families. Initially, it was just children, but now they also provide hearing services and audiology services for adults as well. And we were connected through our Sooner Start provider a long time ago. Oh, Leyton's talking to me. I'm on a call. Yeah, I see that. He's checking on the coronavirus data this morning on his phone. He does, like, as soon as he gets up, he's like, how many people have it today and all that stuff. But they provide audiology services as well as speech services. And then they have like preschool programs and family support programs for families there. Yeah, yeah. And sorry, he doesn't have his ears on yet either. So this is real life, right? So anyway, they do a great job in just and working with families that primarily have chosen that auditory verbal therapy, path. And they also provide the first set of hearing aids to a baby if they're diagnosed early on. So yeah, it's a great resource.
Okay, awesome. Who were some of your mentors? Who are some of your mentors that you look up to?
Gosh, I've had so many good ones and still do. I would not be sitting here if it weren't for people that have opened doors for me and guided me. Diana McCalmont with Partners in Policymaking, Wanda Felty, Vonda Martin, that's retired from the Center for Learning and Leadership, is a huge mentor for me, and we still stay connected even though she's retired. Jan Moss, also, that worked for the Center for Learning and Leadership, and as a parent, if you don't know Jan Moss, she is the one of the funniest human beings you'll ever meet, and we love when she gets to be a keynote at a conference or anytime she can share with families. She just brings that humor and kind of puts things into a different perspective. Those are just to name a few. I mean, there have been so many.
I am trying to get Jan to do one of these, so I hope she does, because I think everybody needs to hear Jan Moss at least once in their life.
They've got to hear some Jason stories for sure. Yeah, he's great.
Good mentors. A lot of those are the same ones I have. We had Wanda, we had Diana on here. I think Diana McCalmont is amazing. So if you didn't watch that interview, go back and watch it. It's very good. I'm looking at my notes down here.
I will do that.
As a parent, and I know you've worked with a lot of parents over the years, it's kind of a three-part question. So what advice would you give? What's the best advice you've had? And what's the hardest thing about advocating for your child?
Okay. So advice, I've had a lot of great people that have given me a lot of great advice and wisdom over the years that I try to hold on to. One being comparison is a thief of joy. So we can't compare our kids to, even not even only typical kids or kids their own age, but even kids with a similar diagnosis. Like, your kid is your kid, they're individuals, let them be who they are. So that just don't compare. Comparison's the thief of joy. Don't sweat the small stuff, you get into things, I think back on like IEP meetings or, frustrating doctor appointments or things like that. And that stuff can eat you alive. And so really you have to learn to pick and choose your battles and what at the end of the day and at the end of that school year, whatever that is, what's the most important thing for your child and for your family. So another thing is just don't lose sight of the other, children and your other family members. Your family's world can't revolve around your child with a special health care need or disability. When my son was young, we went to a national conference with A.G. Bell International, and we heard a speaker, it was Dr. Carol Flexer. And I actually had an opportunity to see her in March before all this started at another conference. And one of the things she said that resonated so much with my husband and I was, just because a child has a disability or a diagnosis or something, you can't spoil them. You can't have different expectations of them than you do your other children. If you wouldn't let your other child, jump on the sofa, then don't let your kid with a disability jump on the sofa. Like, you have to set those boundaries and have those same expectations. I think that really helped guide us with Leyton. We had the expectation that he was 16, 17 years old. When his sister was that age, she had a job. And so what are we going to do, for that? And so my husband just, happened to know somebody and shared Leyton's story, kind of bits and pieces here and there, and knew how much he loved cars. And so, he started working when he was, 16, 17 years old, because that was an expectation we had for his sister, and we had that for him as well. So those are some of the bigger ones, I think, that have impacted our family. And then I rambled on and forgot the other two parts of the question, of the three-part question.
So you hit the advice and what your best piece of advice. But what's the hardest thing as a parent to advocate for your child?
I think some of the hardest is just, it was definitely through the school years, and early on, like, it's so hard to sit through an IEP meeting and hear all the things that your child, all the test scores. The hardest for me to digest was the IQ score. And we got it, and we're like, that can't be right. Like, that can't be right. That's really low. And then I finally came to the realization that that's just a number. It doesn't define what my child can do, who he is, how successful he's going to be. It's just a number, let it go. But I think that's really been the hardest for me, is just that education process. I am so thankful that I'm not having to deal with homeschooling right now, like a lot of my friends are, and worrying about all that while all this is going on. But it's hard. It's hard to sit there and hear all the things that are wrong with your child.
So that's all I have. I want to say that over the years, working with Oklahoma Family Network and just with the Pervasive Parenting Center, especially we were writing the grant. It's been 5 years. It's due next year.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's been 5 years already.
Yeah, it's due next year. I've started the rewrite already in my spare time now that I've had a little bit of. And so Heather was kind of a go-to for us. She was feeding us information left and right. So you're as much a part of the Pervasive Parenting Center as you are, as anybody is, and I appreciate that. The people, the families that you've helped, just with that alone, not to mention the Oklahoma Family Network and everything else. I wanted to just take the time to say thank you for,
Well, we are so proud of you and so happy to work with you. I know you're doing good work out there.
Well, thank you. I want to leave with this. I meet a lot of really extremely nice people in my life, but Heather, you are probably one of the nicest people I've ever met. Anytime I've met you, it's you've never hesitated, so thank you so much.
No, you're gonna make me cry. That means a lot. Thank you.